welcome to our very first online session, $1 trillion opportunities in the metaverse, hosted by Hartmann Capital, and in particular, Hartmann Metaverse Ventures 1. I'm really excited to have you all here. We have a full house. We had over 200 registrations. Today we have three of our portfolio founders coming in, where we're going to dive deep into the world of metaverse gaming. I know the world of crypto is going crazy right now, but if there's ever a time for builders in the gaming space to put their head down, it is now. As many of you might not know, and many of the founders can tell you later, game development cycles take about 2 to 5 years. So no matter what happens in the macro backdrop, it is an incredible time for these guys to really get a head start and start building, because once their main betas are live, I'm sure the world will look a lot different. So without further ado, let me share with you my screen. Awesome. So on today's agenda, we've got 3 items. First, theses for the metaverse. As many of you know, I'm a thesis-driven investor. Anytime I allocate, I want to have a very particular reason why I make the decisions I make and why I pick the founders I pick. So we're going to dive deep into what the actual things are we're looking for. Secondly, we're going to have fireside chats. We got 3 founders in the house today. We got Jonathan Ovadia from Aexlab, leading VR first-person shooter. We've got Toby Saunders from the Bornless and Cathy games, a new currently desktop-based horror first-person shooter, but that is also exploring VR and AR. And last but not least, Cathy Carroll, under the name of Sats, who is focusing more on the mobile space and is an early adopter to Web3 open worlds, where in her prior company, she was the biggest metaverse as a service company. So let's dive right in. And at the end, we'll have a closing and Q&A. The way I want to structure is that after each fireside chat, we'll have the opportunity to have Q&As with the individual founder. And then at the very end, if you have questions for me, we can go over that as well. So diving right in, what are my theses for the metaverse? The metaverse first came across, my desk, so to say, as early as, 2017, really. In 2017, I observed the initial land sale of Decentraland, which back then, I remember on one of my webinars, I actually said, this will either be $1 trillion opportunity or it will go to zero. Ironically, it seems like we're on the track for the first. But since then, the world has shifted quite a lot. The Decentraland, as we'll discuss in a second, in my eyes, is not really the metaverse to be betting on, because it really falls short of expectations of what we think of when we think the term metaverse. In 2019, we started allocating to decentralized gaming to a degree, with protocols again like Decentraland, Somnium, Engine, and so forth. But even then, in 2020, the metaverse really started taking shape. That's when the term metaverse really started being used for the first time in clubhouse rooms. People like Blau, people like Coin Artist, early movers in the space started putting a theme together where gaming, collectibles, entertainment all came under one umbrella, so to say. And so all of last year, I had my wheels turning, thinking about the metaverse, until I said, this is an opportunity too big not to focus on, which led me to starting Hartmann Metaverse Ventures in January 1st of this year. But now, having run a full-time metaverse fund, which there aren't many of, for 6 months at this point, I've spent even more time thinking about what really needs to happen in the metaverse to accrue value successfully. What founders need to focus on to build sustainable ecosystem, and what will be that moment where we're no longer just playing 2D browser games, but we will really be able to experience this Ready Player One type of world. So with that, let's jump right into them. So I've got a thesis that I'll share with you today, and I'll provide backup and statistics. And that is, 1, the metaverse will be a Deca-Trillion opportunity, right, as the title suggests. 2, games make the perfect nucleus for an emerging metaverse. 3, generation 1 of metaverse companies got it wrong. Incentives do not replace fun. And I'm sure many of my founders will comment on that. 4, VR is a sleeping giant and here sooner than you think. 5, gaming is recession proof. 6, NFT mints are, as a business model, are a double-edged sword. 7, tokenization to achieve user-generated content at scale. And last but not least, CC0, meaning Creative Commons licenses, create virality. So let's dive right in. The metaverse will be Deca-Trillion opportunity. Instead of me saying it, why don't I let the people that I hate the most tell it to you? Jokes aside, obviously as a crypto person, we often are at odds with, big banks and big institutions. But the irony is that this seems to be the industry where we're actually on the same page, whether it's JP Morgan, Citi, Morgan Stanley, everybody seems to be on the same page that this is indeed a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity. And the way I phrase it, and this is what I actually put in my initial deck that we presented at our last event in December, is that my belief is that in the next 10 years, the metaverse economy will be bigger than the physical world economy. And the reason I say this is because the digital world is becoming, as the name suggests, a world of its own. Most of you have likely met most of your friends in the digital world first. I always explain it this way. In the past, people used social media to connect with the people they know from the real life. They connect with their classmates online. They connect with their neighbors online. They connect with their old friends online. Today, it's the other way around, where we meet people online and then we connect in the real world. So the real world is becoming, so to say, and that's why I like to start using the word physical world rather than real world, because there's a certain connotation with it. The physical world is becoming one form of expression. It's becoming one form to connect. And so if most of our connections start in the digital world, if most of our transactions happen in the digital world, then it is very close that the digital world, the digitally native world, will ultimately accrue more value, will have more revenue, will have more, GDP, so to say, than entire countries. That's thesis 1. Thesis 2 is that games make the perfect nucleus of an emerging metaverse. One of the biggest problems I see with a lot of these metaverse companies, like, for example, Decentraland, Sandbox, Somnium, and so forth, is that there is no reason to use them. I always like to ask the question, maybe you guys can raise your hands. I think there's a raise your hand button. How many of you have actually gone to Decentraland? How many of you guys have actually logged into Decentraland? Okay, I see a couple hands being raised. Great, a lot of you. Now, write me a message. How many minutes did you spend in Decentraland? And see, I'm not even asking hours, I'm asking minutes. Philip says 5 minutes. Daniel says Decentraland is trash, 20 minutes at most. Jonathan says 5 minutes. Raphael says 0. Miguel says like 5. Right. And that's the overwhelming answer. JP says lasts only a few minutes. So that's the overwhelming answer I've been getting over and over and over again. People check out Decentraland, they spend 5 minutes, they're bored out of their mind, they leave. The irony is that Decentraland is worth like $2 billion. Sandbox is worth like $4 to $5 billion. Obviously, there's something wrong there. And the daily user numbers actually support that, because the daily user numbers for some of these open worlds have 500 users. So to bring it back, if we want to create an actual thriving metaverse that people care about, there's got to be something at the heart of it. People need to find a reason why they spend time there. And games are the perfect, gateway drug. So they're the perfect thing that draws them in. Because once you have a game, where you get 1 million players, you get your 100,000 players, whatever the number is, right? And they care enough. Now they might actually care to own a plot of land in a game-themed open world. Now they might care enough to actually spend money on, merchandise, like whether it's real world clothing or NFTs, in-game items, and so forth. And also now they might care enough that there's actual services and marketplaces. Services like, for example, maybe somebody trains your character while you're not playing, right? Maybe somebody, collects items for you, or like there can be entire economies, right? But again, for there to be an economy, for there to be a marketplace where people actually trade and exchange goods, not just hoping that the NFT goes up in value, but because they actually need the item, right? There's got to be a game that attracts people just because it's fun and because they want to spend time there. And so that's been one of our big underarching theses, is that we want to back, we believe that a good game has a much higher chance of spawning off marketplaces like OpenSea, spawning off open worlds like Decentraland, right? And spawning off successful, whole NFT ecosystems than if you go after one individually, right? And hence we've got quite a few game founders backed that we will be that will be sharing kind of their approach with you today. And you might be surprised. You might think, hey, I thought Metaverse fund, everybody is a token, everybody's NFTs. Many of them say, you know what, the token will come, but the token will come when the time is right, right? Or we're not rushing out NFTs every week, because ultimately those NFTs have to come with something, or they might end up collapsing. So we'll talk about that. So, but thesis 3, because I don't want to hog up the whole time today. Thesis 3, Gen 1 got it wrong. Incentives do not replace fun, right? So we talked about that for a second. Here's another big example. Axie Infinity was perhaps the poster child of Metaverse and play to earn. But the reality is it sucked, right? I've friends that invested in the seed round, and, they made a lot of money, and I'm proud of them. But at the same time, there is a certain intellectual dishonesty that oftentimes happens in the Web3 space, where just because a market cap goes up, we now think that that makes it true. The reality is nobody really cared to play Axie Infinity, and you can see that by the numbers. So the top two charts, so the way Axie Infinity worked, it's a 2D browser game where you battle these little fluffy pets, right? And they said, we're the next Pokemon. Okay, right, fine. And initially they could say, look at all the users we get, right? Users are going parabolic, right? But the thing was, people were getting paid to play. People were getting paid to play, right? That's where the idea of play to earn comes from. Now, when you look at the performance of the Axie token and their Smooth Love Potion token and the user numbers, you'll realize that the moment that these tokens crashed, nobody cared to play anymore. If they weren't getting paid to play, they're saying, I'm done with you. I'm not interested anymore. And that's not a long-term solution, especially as a venture capitalist. We have 3-year lockups, 4-year lockups, 5-year lockups. I don't care if you're successful this year. I care that you're successful 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And so ultimately, this whole idea of play to earn, I think at least the way that Generation 1 did it was flawed and should not be tried to be repeated, because it failed over and over and over again, whether it's Axie, whether that's Crobata, whether that's, crypto plates, you name it. It just doesn't work. And look, I'm not exempt from it. I tried investing in some of these, in the past, in early 2020 as experimentally, but the reality is these are real, and this is where it becomes interesting. Again, metaverses are real digital worlds. They have their own real economies. And just like our economy is now starting to crackle because we gave out too much free money, the same way these game economies have hyperinflation start collapsing because we're just giving out too much free money. It just doesn't work. Thesis number 4, and this one, my man Jonathan will love. I think VR is a sleeping giant and here sooner than you think. In my eyes, and I've made most of my success as an investor, even at my age, by having contrarian bets that most people don't believe in, and digital assets were one of them. Right, for 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I started betting big on digital assets, and back then I was laughed out of rooms. DeFi was smirked at, right? NFTs weren't taken seriously. I get a very similar energy from virtual reality. Every person I talked about VR, they have in their mind that VR is still the super clunky experience. There's only horrible content. It makes you dizzy. It's bad. Nobody uses it, and so forth. The reality is that the numbers are actually showing something very different. On the top left chart, you see how many console sales you have by brand by year. And whether you believe or not, Oculus had more sales last year than Xbox. And not just that, than Xbox had any of the last 5 years. And unlike Xbox, which has been flatlining, Oculus has gone from 0 million to 1.2 million to 2.4 million to 4.5 million to 8.1 million. Now, unless all of a sudden this trend just stops, there's a very high chance that that number, we've been doubling year over year over year, that there might be 16 million Oculus being sold this year. So that is number one, right? It's the fastest growing console that we have. On the right hand, it's not like left hand is the console, the hardware. On the right hand, you see the content. Meta, Facebook, made $1 billion in Quest content last year. Why is it important? Well, and then on the bottom left-hand side, we'll talk about that in a second. On the bottom left-hand side, you see the number of headsets connected to Steam every month. It's a power law. It's going up exponentially. And it wasn't just a small pump that we got because of COVID-19, which certainly, as you can see, gave a steep rise. We're now about twice as high as at COVID time. And so why does that matter? It matters because ultimately no game development studio wants to invest into VR if there's a tiny total addressable market. Nobody wants to invest into great content if they don't think there's money in it. And so I think there's a number, because we've got our two biggest investments to date are two VR companies, Jonathan with Aexlab, and secondly, what's it called? Red Pill VR. So Red Pill VR and Aexlab are two biggest investments with Hartmann Capital so far. They're both VR companies. And I've learned so much from those two founders because ultimately the cost of hardware is declining. A headset used to cost maybe $1,000. You can get an Oculus with a discount for like $250 now. The form factor is improving. Last week I was with Laurent, the founder of Red Pill. He said back in the 90s, he's been in VR for like decades, right? Back in the 90s, it would take a truck to power a VR experience. Today, it's a small headset. People are still complaining it's clunky, it's heavy. Well, guess what? If we got from a truck down to this, it's going to keep getting better. And that's partially also because of number 3, edge cloud computing, something that really only people in VR know about, which is that right now, you've got two options. Either one, again, the Oculus is a little bit bigger because computation happens on it, right? So you need a little bit of computing in there. But secondly, also because you can't fit that much in there, you can't run high resolution, high fidelity games on there. So really high fidelity stuff like Veil and like Red Pill, you have to connect it to computer. And those computers often cost $3,000, $4,000. Now there's a huge shift happening when edge cloud computing happens, when all that rendering can be done in the cloud, when you no longer need the gaming computer, when all of a sudden it can get super slim. And another one is Unreal Engine 5, right? Unreal Engine, for those that don't know, Unreal is essentially the graphical development kit that game developers use to create really high fidelity gaming content. We were on 4 for the last few years. 5 is coming out, and it's essentially hyper realistic. Wish I had a trailer for you, but you can Google it later. There's Unreal 5 trailers already. Mind blowing, actual Ready Player One quality. And last but not least, and I want to save it for last, the trend, right? I don't like investing based on trends because trends can change, but it is something to pay attention to. Facebook wouldn't rebrand to Meta if they wouldn't invest the next decade into this space. And also, you wouldn't have, companies like Nike buying Artifact and NFT companies and so forth. So I think the VR trend is here to stay and will probably yield some of the biggest multiples in the gaming and metaverse space in general. Why? Because everybody's doubting it and nobody's paying attention to the actual numbers. Up next, and I'll go quicker here so we can get to the speakers. Gaming is recession proof, right? Obviously on everybody's mind right now is that the economy is having a really hard time. Stocks are plunging, private valuations are contracting, people are getting laid off, right? Coinbase just laid off, I believe, 18% of the people. BlockFi laid off 10% of the people, right? The economy, quantitative tightening is happening. Interest rates are going up, right? But one of the most common, things that I find institutional investors are looking for is revenue. Is your product actually making money? And there are few industries with as continuous and rapid growth in revenue as gaming. It's almost year over year over year, including the dot-com crash, including the 2008 crash, where gaming kept making money. And it actually makes a lot of sense, because when times are good, people oftentimes laugh and say, why would I spend time in virtual reality? I can go out in Miami, we can party, we can go to live, we can spend money on tables, we can do all these kind of things. But then, when economically things get a little tighter, all of a sudden, you might say, hey, you know what? Maybe I don't spend, $5,000 on a Europe trip, but, I can have a really crazy experience in virtual reality, right? Or maybe instead of going to EDC for $500, right, I could, have an incredible $10 virtual concert in Red Pill VR. And so gaming and metaverse plays have actually very low cost options for high quality entertainment that would enable continuous revenue generation at scale. Because unlike a real festival organizer that has millions in cost, as the Red Pill products produced, it's IP, it's scalable. Whether they run one concert or 20 concerts, it's all the same. Up next, and here I'll go quicker. So NFT mints as a business model are a double-edged sword. Every startup loved, doing NFT mints last year because it was essentially free money. Now the problem is that when you sell NFT, when you sell anything, you make a promise to your customers. And I think the unfortunate truth is that a lot of NFT customers were promised things that simply won't be able to be fulfilled. So a lot of startups had valuations in the hundreds of millions based on crazy NFT volumes. But the reality is, now that we're in a bear market, right, and now that they won't be able to hit those same numbers. So what we're looking for when investing into gaming companies is that they can generate revenue outside of NFT mints that promise something down the line, right? It is part of it. It can be successful part of the business model, because you cannot write off NFTs, because ultimately NFTs are digital goods. It's like whether you sell a physical shirt or digital shirt. I mean, that's where the NFT comes in. Whether you sell a physical ticket or an NFT ticket, right? But I think what we've seen too much is that people sold NFT tickets where the ticket doesn't end up getting you anything, right? So we're being very careful with how our teams approach the NFT strategy, because ultimately it's that trust with the customer and the user that has to be front and center. You cannot dilute the gaming experience with NFTs where you say, hey, you know what? We need more money. Let's sell legendary swords. Let's sell legendary guns. And all of a sudden, the guys that drop 10K on a legendary gun are beating everybody. You got to be able to maintain a meritocracy. So Daniel says, gaming NFTs are key though, if the game is available. Yeah, look, I think gaming and we'll talk about this with the founders, so that it doesn't come from me. We'll have it come from them. I'll ask them what they view about gaming NFTs. But I know that many say you do not want to lose the meritocracy in it. But I'm not going to steal their thunders. I'm going to leave that one to them. 7, tokenization to achieve UGC at scale. This is something that we as a firm are pushing hard for any of our companies, because ultimately I think what tokenization and decentralization represents is decentralization. Is that the users are able to contribute value and gain value. The users are able to contribute value and gain voting rights. So one of the most powerful things we can do is, enable the normal player, enable the normal fan to contribute, to create maps, to create quests, to create any kind of in-game content, heck, mini games, whatever it is, and be rewarded for it when it is used and when money is spent on it. This way, game development studios are no longer this small, isolated vehicle of 20 guys, 40 guys or girls, but rather they open the doors to say, hey, people in our community can build out fan fiction, so to say, right? They can build out additional worlds and so forth. So we're no longer just restricted to our budget, to our workforce, right? To our ideas. That's the key part, but we can really scale beyond it. And then leads us into number 8, which is CC0 Creates Virality. Let me ask you this. Who of you knows this painting? Raise your hand. Who of you knows this painting? Wow, 11 so far, 12, 13, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Wow, that's a lot of people, 25, 24. Okay. If you haven't, okay, pause. So we had 24. Put your hands down real quick. Put your hands down. Put your hands down. Sir, Kian, Jonathan, Fritz, Mike, put your hands down. All right, well, 4 people. 3. Okay. Raise your hand if you've actually seen this painting in person. In person. Okay. 3 or 4. So 25 people. Yes, the original, the actual original. So 2. So out of 25 people that know this picture, 2 people have actually seen it in person. And it might be that one of them actually just kept their hand up. Mike might have his hand permanently up. So why does this matter? Because in the NFT world, there has been a split where people, in the NFT world and also gaming and so forth, where people say, hey, if I buy the NFT, nobody should be able to use it, right? That was the CryptoPunk approach initially, right? And not just the buyer. In fact, Yuga Labs bought them. Lava Labs, the company that initially owned Punk, said, like, you cannot use CryptoPunks. They're still our IP. And that was a death curse. Ultimately, you want people to use your IP, even if you own it. Because guess what? Whoever owns this painting, and I don't know who owns this painting, but because it has been spread around the world, you've seen it in movies, you've seen it in pictures, you've seen it everywhere, the value goes up. If nobody had seen this because the owner says nobody's allowed to show this, it actually would be worthless. And so one great example of that is actually Bored Apes. So whether you like them or not, one interesting thing about Bored Apes is that, they do allow the repurposing of their apes. And so all of a sudden, they've become this cultural phenomenon where there are burger joints with Bored Apes. There are metaverse bands with Bored Apes. There are weed brands with Bored Apes. There are movies with Bored Apes. And guess what? Yuga Labs is not doing them. It's the users. Like even Snoop, I believe the weed brand is by Snoop Dogg, right? There's other famous people, celebrities that use theirs. Not that I would ever go there, but like 11 Nightclub, for example, has a Bored Ape, like always like spinning around. Like all these places, all these companies, all these celebrities, right? They utilize their Bored Ape because they're allowed to. And the mere fact that they're allowed to utilize it and present it is what makes it go viral. And so we very much believe that any kind of metaverse company, the difference between a Web2 metaverse, a Web2 gaming company and a Web3 gaming company to a very large degree is opening the doors to let their content be spread. Web2 is super defensive, super controlling. And I think initially for the first few steps of a company, it makes sense to set the tone, to define the brand. But at some point, you have to open doors to the community and let the magic of scale, of incentivization, and Creative Commons take its place. And that's where I think the new giants of the metaverse will be built. They will start us games, they'll build brand, they'll build a loyal following, and the loyal following will make it bigger than any kind of gaming franchise we've ever seen. And so those were my 8 themes, my 8 theses that I've been developing these last 2 years or so, particularly the last 6 months, that guide my investments. Before we start with the fireside chats, since we still have the full house, we do want to announce we are opening our subsequent close. We've only had one close so far, which was we announced the Metaverse Fund on December 2nd, and within 28 days, we raised our first roughly $12 million and launched January 1st. Since then, we've made about 10 investments. 3 of them you'll meet today. There's also a few podcasts I've done with other founders. The close July 15th. because we are able to present publicly the way we're filed, you have to provide proof of accreditation. That means you got to have your CPA signed that you're actually accredited. But because we ask for that, we're even allowed to publicly have these kind of conversations. And the minimum check size is $100,000. So I can answer questions about more details about the raise at the end of the session after we have the fireside chats, because up next I want to go a bit straight to our founders, and we'll up first have, let me stop the share. Up first, we will have Toby Saunders from the Bornless. And now I need to close this. There we are. Toby, let me find you in here. I'll bring it to the stage. And then also I asked every founder to provide us with a trailer. And so we will have, there's Toby. I will move you to the panel. And so we'll play the Bornless trailer as soon as Toby is up here with us. What's up, Toby?
How you doing?
Good. How's London?
Yes, okay. Yeah, it's hot here. Yeah, it's nice. It's good weather. Yeah.
Toby just relocated from Australia to London a couple of days ago, and me and him, we did our first play test, I believe, in February, March.
Yeah, I think we played with possibly played with Daniel a bit earlier as well. So yeah, it's been a while back. Yeah. Yeah.
So we've been playing quite a bit because one of our core rules for the Metaverse Fund is we test and we use anything we invest in. So I've played Veil at Jonathan's place. I've played Bornless, and what I loved about Bornless is that after the first round, I was like, can we go again? Like all of us were like, we want to go another round, and like that goes back to the idea of like gaming has to be fun. So before we get started, I'm gonna go ahead and share the screen of the trailer. Let's see. There we go.
Then out spake brave Horatius, the captain of the gate. To every man upon this earth, death cometh soon or late. And how can man die better than facing fearful odds for the ashes of his fathers and the temples of his gods?
It looks like a really dope trailer, but I'll confirm also the quality of the game is also incredible. And you guys actually since then have redone the graphics because as we saw, Web3 gaming is kind of known as these 2D browser games, and you guys are taking a very different approach to that. Maybe you can give me a quick background on you, and then also the highlight pitch of the Bornless.
Sure, yeah. Quick background on me. I came from a video background initially. So I initially worked in TV and then went into documentaries for a while. And then I moved into VFX I moved into VFX in Unreal Engine because it's a real-time renderer, and Epic have been doing a lot of work on their movie render queue. And there's some really good, there's a really healthy kind of community of content creators around Unreal Engine. And so you can learn how to use that software very effectively. So I was learning online how to do it through the tutorials on YouTube. And then I had started making a game as well for fun. And then one of the tutorial people who I was learning from was Jackson, who ended up being one of our co-founders. And so I had reached out to him saying, hey, I love your tutorials. They've taught me a lot. Do you want to make a game? And then we started making Bornless as a little game jam. We were going to make just a small little game to like put out on Steam for Halloween. It was going to be a quick kind of game jam turnaround. And we loved it. We got obsessed with it, and we got deeper and deeper, and the scope creeps. and at the time, I had been trading crypto and NFTs myself, just with spare money I had after COVID, obviously. And I saw this very powerful funding model that lots of devs were taking advantage of. And it seemed like a no-brainer. And it's kind of, there's a lot of points that you mentioned previously, Felix, but I guess I can get into them a bit. But it's essentially, yeah, we saw this really powerful funding model, and there was a lot of, yeah, quite free money at the time. It seemed quite easy to get a game kind of funded. And then as we got deeper into development, we became more interested in concepts of decentralization, metaverse, and all of the kind of like really interesting uses of the tech started to creep in slowly over the course of development. And now here we are. We've just redone our whole kind of system. We went from a 2-man team to sort of a 10, 15-man team for a time to fix up development. A lot of the content you guys will see online for Bornless is quite old now. We've got a new build, which I think Daniel, Felix, you've yet to play this one yet, but the new build is pretty tight. So yeah, it's built in Unreal Engine, and it's a free-to-play seasonal FPS. So you could similarize it to Apex, Warzone, all of the Siege, all of the kind of standard FPS styles. We've gone with our own spin on a lot of the mechanics and the game design. In terms of pace, it's somewhere in between kind of Hunt Showdown, Tarkov, and Far Cry, I would say, something like that. All to this very creepy theme of a demon book, which I maybe could get into in a bit. But anyway, I'll hand back to you.
I will say like definitely faster pace than Hunt Showdown, because Daniel said that like that was the closest comp. So as a Metaverse VC, one of the funnest things I get to do is actually download games and test them. And so I also tried Hunt Showdown, but you guys' pace is much faster. Let me ask you this: since you, beyond being a game developer, you also did Web3 and gaming and NFT investing and so forth. What are some things you want to do differently, or what do you think you've learned from observing the first generation of gaming companies in the Metaverse space pop up? And
yeah, that's the $1 trillion question, I guess, isn't it? What to do right? I think you made a really interesting point about, I think, talking about Gen 1 and Axie, and I think that's not what I think of when I think of a metaverse. And I think the term is something we're all kind of defining as we go, isn't it? But I think Gen 1 wasn't it. I think that it seems to me, at least in FPS, that there's a gap there for a really, really tight FPS to step in. And it seems like a fairly good, there's lots of good onboarding ramps. There's lots of good kind of influencers in FPSs. It seems like the esports scene, and there's a lot of, people already are trading this stuff in Web 2, right? Skins and so on. Look at Counter-Strike, and it seems like a product market fit from that perspective. So I think that, yeah, the way we looked at it was, okay, well, there seems to be a really large gap in the market for like really tight gaming experiences. FPS especially is something that seems like a big gap and product market fit. You've got lots stepping into that space now, but it's going to take a while for those guys to catch up. And I think above all, it was a case of moving away from the structures of Gen 1 that, for better or worse, basically attracted a different kind of target audience. It's not gamers in the way that we might have grown up playing games. It's a different type of target audience, and geographically it's very different as well. I was talking to the guys at Engine Starter a lot about Gen 1 and what that really meant. And they were talking, it's essentially that, especially Southeast Asia, saw tremendous value from Gen 1. And that's great. And that's one of the really beautiful, powerful things about crypto gaming is redistribution of wealth, or whatever you want to call it, giving people opportunities. And Southeast Asia especially managed to really own Gen 1, and that was great. But there's a big gap in the Western market for higher quality games that require, more expensive hardware, which is one limiting factor. And but also that are slicker experiences. I don't really like the term AAA because it implies that you have to have $100 million budget to make a good game, which I don't think is the case. Yeah, it's a long answer to your question, but
let me ask you this: since your the trailer said, you know, next NFT collection, how do you guys utilize NFTs, and what's been the feedback from the community? And I'm asking this because, you know, there was a time, I believe it was Ubisoft or it was some company that announced, I think, a helmet as an NFT or something like that, and the community went wild. They went rogue and said, you know, you guys are selling out.
Sure.
What's gonna be like your approach to NFTs, and how has your community reacted so far?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I actually wanted to talk about that you talked about in your bit at the start. You talked about promises, and I think that is when you sell NFTs, you better fulfill your promise. You better do it, and I think that we're doing it. That's what we pitched a game and we pitched a utility, and we're going to do it. And I think that really, at least NFTs that were coming a year ago, that's what really I think is the main thing, is like, what were the promises of the NFTs that were sold a year ago, and are you going to deliver on them? I think that the use of NFTs in gaming now, it's not just about like, are you going to deliver on the game? That should be a given. Now it's the real conversation of, well, why is this thing an NFT? Does it actually need to be an NFT? I think a lot of people get hung up on the idea that for a Web3 game to be successful, that the economy is the most important factor. And I think that's wrong. the fun, that if the game is really wicked and really fun, people are going to play it, and then they will care if their skin is worth $10 and they can sell it on after they're finished. Then they will care if they can hold on to an NFT for a year, play the game, really enjoy their NFT, and then resell it. Just like how when I was a kid, you'd buy Assassin's Creed, you'd complete it, and then you could sell it. Because you actually had a physical copy, right? And I think that once the key, I think, is making a really wicked sick game, and then using the technology really effectively on top of that. Not starting with the technology and building a game on top of the technology. You start with a really good game and then bring awesome Web3 elements to it.
What would that be? So, you know, because in the beginning you mentioned you do plan to decentralize, like, and I know we're not there yet, but what are some aspects that you could see yourself have? Which part of the game do you think would ultimately be decentralized? What parts would have Web3 integrated?
So skins, definitely. It's an obvious one. I think everyone gets that. We don't even need to go too much into that. I think most people watching probably know skins is something that definitely should be Web3. A user shouldn't have to be locked to their, like if a user buys something, you remember the horse armor for Oblivion years ago, the famous DLC that everyone was furious about. You know, you should be able to resell that, right? It seems like no reason why you can't. Skins should be something you can resell. Apart from that, we can get into interesting conversations about user-generated content. I think you touched on that. User-generated content is something that you can create really interesting economies around user-generated content, and that's something we're exploring at the moment. I think a really simple iteration of that is you could say user-generated skins, but you could also say, user-generated levels. The barrier to entry on that system would be some kind of, even if you were doing it in a simple way, like, I don't know if anyone played Halo, there's the Forge editor. It's pretty user-friendly, you know, it's good UX, good UI, and you can make some fun maps on that. And that's what me and my friends did a lot when we were kids, was we played a lot of Halo and made our own maps and shared it. And even Far Cry 2 had a really interesting level editor where you could vote on like whose level was the best one of the week. This is like 20 years ago or something, 15 years ago. So user-generated content yeah, definitely has a place for Web3, whether that's through some kind of governance token voting system, which I think is one really interesting way to do that. You know, you can do minting your user-generated content. I think that works especially well for skins. I'm not sure it works as fluidly for levels, but I think the governance token voting system and voting and earning, I think, works well for levels. Apart from that, a good use, I think, of Web3 in games, especially the kind of game that we're building, is there's lots of different words that people use, whether it's clan, guild, DAO, whatever structure you want to talk about. I think that communities can, if you give communities the ability to team up effectively, govern themselves, give them kind of admin controls over their own spaces, I think that that's a really interesting use of Web3. Particularly like voting systems or kind of like, you know, we've got, I don't want to get too much into the specifics, but I think that, yeah, like guilds and clans and organizations will have more teeth if they've got some Web3 tech behind it. So particularly in FPSs, clans are something. If we engineer our game so that clans have really fun tools to be able to play with, that also is conducive to like financial success. That's everyone's winning.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes me think of, you know, I always give the example, like back in the day when I was a younger nerd, I played Guild Wars, you know, and I remember me and my classmates, we'd like pull together, I forgot what was the currency in the game, it was like iron ore or something like that. I don't know. We collected all our assets together to buy Guild Hall, right? And then you technically own that in-game asset, although like you can't resell the Guild Hall, right? And then you buy upgrades for that Guild Hall and so forth. And the irony is that, like, if a faction, a guild, a firm, whatever it is, becomes, you know, global level famous, like with FaZe Clan, for example, you know,
exactly.
If FaZe Clan, like these assets become real world value assets, so to say, where if FaZe Clan had a Guild Wars Guild Hall, they for sure would get real monetary value out of, like, you know, reselling that or selling it to somebody else. In fact, if FaZe Clan ever got acquired, whoever acquires them would want those, you know, metaverse assets along with them.
Yeah, and I think that that's when you have interesting steps towards, like, you know, having brands being in game, right? That's when brands, I think, can step into in games, not in a kind of like in your face marketing type way, but like a genuine presence of engagement. It's not just like putting X fashion brand or whatever in your game. It's this brand is actually participating in the game and having fun, right? Having fun. You know, it would be dope if there was a Red Bull Bornless team, right? That would be wicked, right? And I think everyone thinks that would be fun. So yeah, I think giving those organizations the ability to structure themselves and be kind of like independent give them enough controls to feel independent. A big thing we talked about over the course of development is this idea of, like, if you were going to play Counter-Strike with your buddies, you're not going to hop into the Counter-Strike Discord. You have your own Discord, you have your own community, you have your own spaces. And I think that to make a really effective, at least for FPS games, you need to be able to go to them, not expect them to come to you. You need to be able to have your product fit into their communities, to give them the tools to have fun, not expect them to all come to the Bornless Discord or, you know.
It's interesting, you know, I think, and actually I forgot to put in my thesis, is that something I'm big believers in, for a metaverse to really go viral and have scale, it needs to be non-linear. Meaning, yes, some low on world building is good, but you still want to leave it somewhat open where, like, good examples, like, let's say Assassin's Creed, right? You play the game, you're done. Betting on those kind of games is a lot harder than something can be played over and over and over again. Like Counter-Strike is a perfect example where you can play 1 million rounds and people still don't get bored because, you know, It's the players that make the round unique, because I don't know where that new player get matched with, like what his strategy is, what his approach is, versus if I hear the same quest 5 times, I know what the quest is, like what I need to do and so forth. And so the devs almost step in the background, like you create the world, you create the laws of nature, so to say, and let the players have their fun.
Yeah, I think that idea of creating an open-ended experience is really important for especially FPS games, because it's expected now that when you make an FPS that's trying to fit into the multiplayer scene, that you're making a seasonal game. That's expected. You set out to make a seasonal game that you're going to say, we're going to make this, we're going to compete to be the best, otherwise what's the point? And that's kind of what we're setting out to do. We're going to find our niche, which is a kind of 1950s-esque FPS game with a dark theme of demons and such. We've got our own kind of style, our own niche, and we're going to make a game that is as good as we can make it. And we're going to compete for those top spots, because otherwise it's, what's the point? You're not going to get anywhere.
No, I agree wholeheartedly with that, because that again goes against that plain approach that the Decentraland does. With Decentraland, there is no vibe, there is no niche to it. Versus, you guys got the 1920s, with Sinatra music in the background, horror style, dark colors. Veil is more like aliens, outer space, so to say. So like whatever attracts you, whatever world you want to go to, and actually, when I think Ready Player One, when I think like back when I wrote my last book, the one that has been published, where people go into virtual worlds, right? You think like, do I want to be in like some medieval world? Do I want to be in like some pirate world? Do I want to be in an alien world, right? And that's what people seek out. They're not gonna think, let me go to Montana today, right? Let me go to Ohio. Sure. Like, I mean, it's all the plain, it's all kind of similar. And of course, don't want to offend anybody from Montana, but yeah. So, if you can dominate those verticals, and, especially now, you as a studio, obviously, Bornless is your flagship title. That's what you're launching with. But, Cathedral, I guess, also has, more plans. I don't know if you want to talk about your AR and VR mini projects a little bit. And maybe that's as a final question before we go into Q&A. So if you have questions for Toby, good time to write them up now.
Yeah. AR, when we were doing our whitelist about a year ago, we were coming off the back of the Neo Tokyo kind of frenzy, and it was very exciting seeing all of these riddles and this kind of huge campaign run by Becca and Elliot. It was cool to watch, right? I think everyone, whether or not you like Neo Tokyo, the riddle stuff was quite cool, I think. And off the back of that, we decided to make our own kind of riddle whitelist ARG type situation. It was lots of multimedia, mixed reality. You'd move through, web games, and we had lots of Discord bots and puzzles, and it was designed for individuals and teams. And our users could go through this kind of game, learn about the story. So a lot of the pre-production that we were doing for the game was fed over this AR title, and we essentially made a prototype for what we will be doing on top of the FPS. The prototype for that was a success, basically. We had a really small community at the time, only about 1,000 people, and I think about 250 of those people finished the entire thing. And we worked out it would have been something like 10 hours of riddle busting that these guys did, which is pretty good user engagement. And we got really great feedback. And it was basically, really, if you look at it, that was our first delivered title, was the Bornless kind of mixed reality game for our whitelist. And it was, seasonal over the course of a couple of months. And I think that is what we're starting to drip feed parts of that into the game now. So anyone who's played Call of Duty Nazi Zombies, you know how filled with Easter eggs that game is. We're starting to drip feed parts of the next wave of the mixed reality stuff into the game. I'm not going to pretend like we're really far along with it, because we're not, but that's where that's going. Our FPS is going to have some interesting, extensions from outside of the game. For example, just to kind of pique your interest, there is a book, an unholy book somewhere out in the world that users can find, and if they find it, they'll win a very special NFT, right? That's one. That's one example. So so that's kind of a bit on the mixed reality thing. We made a prototype, we deployed it, it was a success. We'll be building another one on top of the FPS once we get our wheels spun up. The VR title, you can see if you look a long way back on our YouTube channel, I think there's a VR prototype again. We made another prototype. I was actually working on a VR game before Bornless. That was my kind of like passion project I was working on. And so we've got a Bornless VR prototype that was made. A lot of the kind of consulting we spoke with the guys at Vulcanforged as well, because we've taken a lot of inspiration from their development. And a lot of the advice we got was don't spread yourself too thin when you're a new studio, tackle one problem at a time. And we chose FPS first. So the VR thing is absolutely on the agenda for Bornless. I love VR as well. I know that most people in this chat probably can see VR. But we're not working on VR at the moment. It's really important that we can prioritize, deliver a really, really, really tight FPS game, and then build on top of the IP after we nail it. We're all in on this FPS and making it really, really good. But we've also got lots of fun ideas for new IPs. And I think Jackson's working on one now, actually, which is so opposite from the Bornless. It's like a lovely, beautiful, kind of completely different experience. And so, yeah, we've got lots of IPs in the tank. There's one really cool IP who we got approached by. I won't name drop or anything, but it's lots of you I think would know it, who wanted to do a mixed reality thing for their users. So Cathedral might be working on that with this other big IP as kind of like a consultation, or maybe we'll actually do the work. So there's lots of avenues for Cathedral to grow away outside of just Bornless, which is exciting. So that's a bit of the scope there for Cathedral for everyone.
Amazing. Yeah, no, and I mean, the way I view these studios, whether it's Cathedral, Lifeforce, or Aexlab, these are like some of the first, game developers with actual, games and products that are open-minded enough to try out new avenues, right? Because ultimately, oftentimes people say like, won't, one Blizzard, just take over the space. And I think the answer is kind of similar to when people say, won't JP Morgan just take over DeFi, right? Usually the incumbents, they're too established, they have too much career risk, so to say, right? To try out new things, where it does take a new studio to experiment, because, you've got, for better or worse, you have less to lose. And usually having less to lose allows you to be experimentational, allows you to be innovative. And that, I think, will ultimately buy you market share, because you'll be moving much, much quicker than any kind of incumbents. And by the time they're messing around with it, you might already have your first million users. You might already have your first 2 or 3 titles.
This is one thing we had a consultation at one point with Lee Perry, who was a senior game designer for Gears of War 1 and 2. And obviously this is a huge, I played this guy's games when I was a kid. It's massively inspiring to get him on a call. And one of the biggest bits of advice he gave was rapidly prototype and test your products. And that's a big core kind of foundational belief in our studio, is to make the thing and then test it and see if it's fun. Like, for example, we had this morning, actually, Branton, we decided we wanted to test out a projector in our game, because we're trying to build this, quote, metaverse space. We wanted to give people fun things to do in their hangout spot. We want a projector. We want people to be able to like watch movies and hang out together. We were like, oh, we want to test a projector. And Branton said, I can do it. I said, okay, how long is it going to take you? Because you've got a lot on your to-do list. He said, I can do it in 7 minutes. I said, you can make a projector in 7 minutes, go. And we timed him. We've actually got a video of it. And he made a projector in 4 minutes. So and I have to do 100 push-ups now. So there's rapidly prototyping, I think, is something that big studios might still be really good at, but they have much longer pipelines, and there's bureaucracy and more friction Whereas with us, it's like I'm daring him on Discord to make a feature, and he does it.
And you can still have a culture with your fan base and your users, your players, where you can share that rapid testing versus, a big studio would never release anything that's not perfectly polished and thereby doesn't get the same feedback that would help them, orient quicker. Alex asks, will there be a demo for the game?
You can come play it now. We just got our play testing up and running. So if you swing by Bornless Discord, you can say hello in the general chat. If you've got a beefy enough PC, I think we need kind of medium, low end, upper low end, or kind of medium end specs. I've got the specs somewhere. I'll drop them in the chat or something. But if you hop into Bornless Discord, say hello, say you want to play test, if provided you've got the minimum specs. And you've got a microphone, that's another important thing. If you've got minimum specs and you've got a microphone, then we can play. At the moment, we're back to play testing every couple of days. And you can come and test it out. You can see in our Discord, for anyone who's curious, you can see game dev updates. Is a channel in our Discord where you can see just the dumps of the stuff we're making. So that's a good place to just see a rolling update list of where we're at, what things are looking like.
What I'll do is I'll send an email to all the attendees with the link to the trailer, since I heard it was lagging on my end, and also a link to the Discord where they can do the play test. And I'll include whatever you, Sats, and Jonathan want. I can include it in there so that people can follow up, learn more as well. Let's do one final question, because I do want to make sure that we get time for the other two as well. There was one longer one from Hampus Erlandson. He says, lovely webinar so far. I'd love you both to discuss this rather long question. The physical gaming world is very anti-crypto concept in gaming for now. Arguments against are, for example, environmental, greed, remoney, and that the add-ons aren't needed as they can be added just as well via Web 2. Started from the Horse, Armor, and Oblivion to other forms of DLC, to early access and extra payments. One recent example, Kotaku's article about Grid, the first blockchain game coming to the Epic Store looks like shit. And other articles gloating over everything everything going wrong with crypto. What is your take on the situation?
Yep, I can take that one. I actually think Kotaku's absolutely ripped Grit and a new one. I actually think that's great. I actually think that's really cool. And I think for me, it doesn't necessarily undermine the interesting strides that Grit has taken and that Go Gala Games has taken. Whether or not it's my type of game or not, I'm not going to play Grit. It's not my type of game at all. But I think that stepping out into the Epic Store and I feel like with crypto gaming, it's like every week we're 10 feet taller, right? And we just have to keep doing better, keep changing the language, stop sounding like used car salesmen, and do a better job over consistently, learn from our mistakes, and get closer to the standard that people are actually expecting. Like some of my favorite studios, Santa Monica Studios, they did God of War 4, Bethesda. I know they get a lot of stick for buggy games, but I think their games are beautiful. Obviously, you've got Elden Ring as a masterpiece, right? That's the target, and I think that we can get there piece by piece. And the point about why do it Web 3 if you can do it Web 2? I think that is a really good point for a lot of stuff in crypto gaming. Is you can't just say you can't hammer every nail with a Web3 hammer. You use the technology where it makes sense to use it. The big thing is to if you're gonna make a genre like a FPS game, if you're gonna break the genre, break it in specific ways with purpose and intention. Don't just innovate, because if you just innovate, then you're just breaking all of the genre norms, and people are going to think your game's rubbish, or most likely are going to think it's rubbish. People like genres. People like FPS games. So the point about why do it Web 3 if you can do it Web 2, that applies to a lot of stuff. And I think that a lot of crypto games have gotten away from what's at the heart of crypto, which is genuine good use of the technology. That's what I would say.
Awesome. And I'll give you one final one because I thought it was a good question, which is what are the most important factors to make a game sticky over a long period of time where people want to spend hours a day for years, like Call of Duty, for example?
That's a great question. Yeah, I think lots of people throw around the term esports. We've got this on our website. We want to redo our website. I'm actually not happy with a lot of the language we're using on our website. Esports is something that is kind of a mystifying term, creating a really healthy environment for content creators and competitive gamers, I think is what we're really talking about. You want to create an economy in your game, not necessarily a Web3 economy, but like a genuine market for streamers, YouTubers, artists, and also professional gamers. There's lots of different types of people that make up a healthy game. And I think that giving those people really good tools is how you get there. We can go all the way back to Gary's mod. Gary's mod was fantastic because you just give all of the controls to the users and you let them do anything they want. And I'm still seeing hilarious Gary's mod animations coming out, 20 years later or whatever. So I think being an active developer, having the devs be active and responding to kind of users' complaints and stuff like that is one way on a gameplay level, rebalancing, adding in new content, making a seasonal game and having things be moving and changing and fun, but also giving really interesting tools like cutscene systems, level editors, some kind of, if you're talking governance tokens, being able to somehow reward streamers would be fantastic. But tournaments, having clans being able to host their own tournaments and giving them really interesting tools to be able to do that. Those are some of the ways that I think you create a 5-year, 10-year FPS title in Web3.
Amazing. Toby, thank you so much for being here. And I'm so excited for you to be officially a Hartmann Metaverse Ventures-backed founder.
Yes.
We're going to fucking crush it the next 5 years. I'm going to run to the bank later. You're going to get your funding and we're going to, get this show on the road. And I would really love for anybody that wants to check it out. I'll send the link via email, join the Discord, right? Do the play test. We're not asking anybody to invest. You can't invest in Bornless because I already did that. But what we want you to do is try it out. Tell us how you like it, Tell us things that you think like, hey, this could be better. This is something we like. This is something we don't like, right? Because that's the most valuable thing we can do. Because unlike so many, crypto games out there that have no game and they say 5 years from now we'll have a game, Star Atlas, Illuvium, right? Like we like to actually have game developers, whether it's a closed alpha, a private beta, it doesn't matter. As long as there's a product, people can try it out. You can actually make progress, right? So, and I think Bornless has already an incredible game, and I think guys will like it. So, it all just requires a desktop computer. So far, this one is not VR. But with that, thanks so much, Toby. We'll talk later, and I'll bring Jonathan up next.
Nice one. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Awesome. There is my man, Jonathan. And it's funny because the last thing that Toby mentioned was that, for a title to become really successful in order for a title to become really successful, you got to have the tools where streamers can stream, TikTokers can TikTok, and so forth. And if there's anybody that's done really, really well at that, I would say it's Jonathan, because Jonathan, as you can see, he already has a camera pointed at him. Jonathan has his game Veil has been going viral on TikTok. They've got full-time in-house TikTokers that around the clock, make content on YouTube and so forth. So really excited to have you, Jonathan.
How are you, Felix and friends?
I'm great. Before we get into it, I'm going to play a trailer, if that's all right with you.
Sure.
All right, let's go. Veil beta trailer. So this one, keep in mind, this one is virtual reality, so what you see is like, virtual reality graphics, like actually how it's done. And yeah, let me not say too much more. So the really amazing thing is that, this is actual virtual reality. I talked about at length earlier about how I'm a big bull on VR and how most people have this misconception that VR is still this clunky, awful gameplay, which a lot of it out there is. But Jonathan, you made the decision to build on VR. Why is that, especially 6 years ago?
So when I first tried VR, it was 2014, and I was blown away. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. I was like, this is sick. I also thought it was 10, 20, 30 years out. In 2016, Christmas, that's when I tried my first VR game that I actually liked. It was a shooter, and it put me in this really weird position where I tried it, and it was like the coolest thing I ever tried because it was immersive, and I was like, I saw what was coming.
Mm-hmm.
It also ruined me on regular flat screen games because I no longer cared anymore. And there was two things happening at that time. Crypto started taking off in the last big bull run prior to the one that just happened now, where ETH went from like $10 to $1,500. And Facebook acquired Oculus a few years earlier for about $2 billion. So it's something that I didn't think it would get this big this fast. But if Mark Zuckerberg was making a $2 billion bet on something that was gaming related, I thought at the very least I can make a little bit of money and, do what I love doing. So that was really the thought process. I loved it. I thought if Mark Zuckerberg's going to be buying this for $2 billion, he's probably going to do something with it. It's going to go somewhere. I didn't expect 8 years later, 7 years later, for all the VR hype, Facebook changing their name, and then every other massive company FOMOing into gaming and then following in as well. I definitely give credit to Facebook for that name change and that flag in the industry saying, hey, this is a real thing. But I could have never imagined that right place, right time, and just really falling in love with something that I thought was really cool.
What do you think makes VR gaming different from desktop gaming? So if you had built Veil for the desktop, what different thought process goes into it?
I wouldn't have even tried to build Veil I wouldn't even, me personally, I wouldn't try to build a console or desktop PC game without major backing, because it's the largest market, right? It's literally the largest market. It's an established market. You have games that have 10, 20-year long franchises with endless money pits to take you down with influencers and market. I mean, to break into real marketing, into real gaming with marketing today, I don't know if you know, but Call of Duty, for example, every Call of Duty title that releases is about a $200 to $300 million budget. The last one that came out was closer to $280 million. $50 million is game development. $250 million is marketing. So who am I to come and try to spend $300 million and 5 years? It's like, who's going to give me that money? It's just, I wouldn't. And I play Call of Duty. Why am I ever going to stop playing Call of Duty? I studied a lot, just like the psychology behind games and how games work and how communities form. I think that's a very interesting thing, because even today I play World of Warcraft almost 20 years later, and it sucks. It's not a good game, but I still play it. And I wanted to try new MMORPGs, but there's this barrier to entry of you need to drop a few hundred hours before you get into the groove of things, and you need to collect friends along the way so that when you come to the game, you have friends to interact with. You already have, this there's a barrier to entry essentially. So a game like Call of Duty, it's not going to go anywhere. I go onto Call of Duty, I have 200 friends online that I've collected since I was 13 years old on my Activision account. For another game to come out, I would have to go and call all my friends and be like, hey, I'd have to beg them to come over here. And we saw it with a really, really good case study is PUBG came out. PUBG was the first battle royale game. They came out, $30 price tag, skyrocketed. Everybody got it. It was an awesome battle royale. It really took off mainly because of influencers on Twitch streaming it. And then Fortnite pivoted because they actually were just a single story campaign game, and then pivoted into copying battle royale with their assets. And since they already had a sunk cost, they said, we need to do this free to play. If we charge $30, we're not going to be able to get people to leave PUBG for us.
Mhm.
They went free to play, so the cost of switching was nothing. All the people playing PUBG were like, let's just try it out. It's free. If we don't like it, we come back. There was nothing, no barrier to entry. So everyone went to Fortnite. It was good. They stuck there. Then Apex Legends came out, which objectively is a better game. They had to launch free to play because if Fortnite's free to play and Apex tries charging money, why the cost of switching is too high. So they went free to play. And the only time that Apex Legends had more players than Fortnite was their launch day. And everyone went to Apex Legends. And even though it was a better game, you know what most people said? Because I was playing it. In Apex Legends, it was brand new. It was better game. But no matter what, you had less friends on your friends list in Apex Legends because you just hadn't spent that much time there. So you'd rather go to Fortnite, which is objectively a worse game than Apex, but your friends are there. So it's kind of like we're going to talk about Miami quotes. Someone talks about Miami quotes here, right? Would you rather go to Live, the best club in the world, by yourself, or some Calle Ocho really run down club with all your best friends? The people are what makes the game. That's why I still play World of Warcraft 20 years later, because I still have my old friends from the guild and we talk shit. So I would never try to compete against these 10, 20-year-old franchises because there's already so much community around it and there's already so much money as well that you're literally fighting. I mean, you're one person fighting a 1,000,000-man army. I mean, it's impossible. There are some indie games that skyrocket, but you're talking about 1 in a million. It's just something that I would not bet on my life making something unless it's like the most unique thing. And even if it is, you still need crazy marketing money to infiltrate because there's Call of Duty, there's Halo, there's so many games. In VR, there's a content drought. You saw there's a company, I'm not going to say names because they're competition, but there's a company that spent a few $100,000 on marketing, made $20-30 million in revenue. They barely spent money in marketing because people are dying for content. People are scouring the internet. Where can I find new VR games? No one is out there on PlayStation, Xbox, or PC. Well, let me find new PC console. Like, you're already in. I mean, there's dozens of amazing games that can capture you for years. So to get someone's attention is very difficult in traditional gaming versus virtual reality gaming. And when I first got in, I mean, right now, today, my only competition, there's 3 shooter games in VR that are like considered competition. They came out in 2016, 2017, and 2018. That's it. In the last what, 5 years? It's nothing.
So let me ask about those. So you know, they're big names in VR recently have been like with a Zenith, which of course is like more MMORPG, Onward, Pavlov. Like, what do you think have they done right and what they've done wrong that you are looking to do differently?
You want me to talk about like specific one or which one?
I mean, whichever one. Like, I guess you have the biggest gripes with, where you say like, hey, this is something I'm trying to do differently.
They all they've all done an incredible job because look, I'll go in order from, you know, you mentioned 4 or 3 games, I think. So I'll go in order. Onward was the first one. Yeah, Onward was the first game that came out. So they had first mover advantage. They were a military simulator game. They really focused on tactical gunplay, realism, one bullet, you die, slow, very, very slow pace game, like 10-minute rounds, like real military. They killed it. Amazing job. They did an incredible job. The founder of it did an incredible job because he was passionate about it. The one thing that as a founder, he did a good job on an exit. As a gamer playing the game, it kind of sucks, but he sold out to Facebook. Facebook acquired him, and then Facebook forced Onward to be Quest compatible. And instead of, so for a while they were running like, here's the Onward PC version and here's the Onward Quest version. And Mark Zuckerberg wanted all the users, so they combined both to be the Quest version, even on PC. So you can have a $5,000 computer, you're still running the same quality as a standalone, which destroyed the hardcore community that were the first community members. It's basically flipping off the community. So that was what they did right, was first to market, good game, it worked. You know, they created their own niche. What they did wrong from a community standpoint is they completely flipped off everybody that had high-end hardware and started them off because they started off PCVR and said, hey, we need to be mass marketable, so we're going to downgrade the quality for everybody. So that kind of destroyed them, and they've been going down ever since. But that was a Mark Zuckerberg decision. The second one was Pavlov. They did an incredible job because they were first to market, extremely moddable. What they did poorly is no one plays their official maps. They have a few maps that they made. They have no taste in art. They just 99% of people are playing community-made things, and they don't treat their community right. That's the number one issue. So it's a community-based game, and they don't treat their community right. They've made almost $100 million. They have not reinvested anything into their game. They came out with one update since they came out, which is a World War II update. Gamers are over World War II. It's just a thing. Like World War II is done. So they started off amazing. They just made a bunch of money and didn't reinvest, and it's all community maintained, and they don't treat their community right. So that's the good and the bad. Zenith, what they did good, make an MMORPG in VR, very difficult. No one's done it. They actually created their own IP. It looks beautiful. Too soon to tell if they've done anything wrong. They just raised $35 million. If they spend it intelligently, they're going to win long term because they're the only MMORPG in VR, and they're here right now. So games like World of Warcraft and all these like massive MMOs that could take them out, it's going to take them a while to get here. So as long as they use that $35 million Series B money intelligently to continue scaling and adding more content and features and things like that, you know, as long as they're smart about it, they should know. I'm not going to say that they're going to be the number one MMORPG. There might be other competitors, but no matter what, you take the top 10 MMORPGs today: RuneScape, World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy Online, what do you call it, Elder Scrolls, you name it. There's like 10, and they're all multi-billion-dollar franchises. So as long as they're here first and they have that lead, right? They maintain that first mover advantage and don't fuck it up, excuse my French, they should at least be one of the top players, right? I'd be happy to be in the Call of Duty, Halo, Counter-Strike, Rainbow Six Siege, Valorant conversation. You'd be a multi-billion-dollar franchise. The gaming industry is the largest industry by revenue in the whole world. So, you know, being even top 1,000 game, you're talking about $1 billion franchise. So that's the beauty about it.
So then let me ask you this. It sounds like most of these, all three of these, one of their strengths was that they were first mover. Do you have a first mover advantage? And if not,
yes.
How are you making up for it? Okay.
So we have so that's the thing. The first mover advantage, there's like, you know, there's a chart. I know you know what I'm talking about, where it's like super early adopters and there's like four
innovator, early adopter, early majority, late majority, laggards.
Okay. So we're like give them to me in order and I'll tell them to you, because I use my own words, but I know there's like a proper way.
Innovator phase is like the first 1% or so, and then the early adopter phase is maybe like the first 2.5 or like something like that.
Okay, so just so you know right now, Steam, which is the largest market for games and community in the world, 120 to 140 million monthly active members, 3% only, and this just hit recently, of their entire player base plays VR. So we're very early. We're very early. We're at 3% of the gaming market on Steam. It's nothing. Next year with PlayStation VR 2, with the new Pico that's literally rolling out as we speak in Germany to test first, and then, and I have a question for you actually. This might be very interesting for everybody involved in tech. Why is it that massive technology companies always test the European market in Germany? Have you noticed that?
A lot of gamers.
I don't know. I'm actually very curious. I spoke to someone from Pico that told me we're testing the Pico in Germany. If it works in Germany, then we're going to put it everywhere else in Europe. And I asked her why, and she said it's just a thing. Like we always, like Germany is the market we test for tech first.
Well, probably because we're so critical people, you know, as a German, like, you know, we're always super hypercritical. So if Germans like you, everybody else is going to be easy on you, you know?
I didn't want to say it. She told me the truth. I wanted to hear it from you. She told me Germans are the hardest people to adopt. And if you can get Germans to adopt your tech, you're pretty much green lit for the rest of Europe. Okay, so it's true.
Yeah.
Oh, someone's writing.
I see some German comments in here.
Israelis are up there too. Israelis are pretty tech forward though. But anyways, yeah. So Pico's coming out. Oculus has. So I don't know if you saw, but Facebook announced 4 headsets in the making, which I think that's a whole other conversation. But anyways, they're making 4 headsets over the next 2 years. PlayStation VR 2 is the biggest exciting thing that's about to come early next year. So we're at 2-3% of the market every month. I imagine sometime next year would be at 5 or 10%. So us having 4 or 5 years of development in right now, we're like at the perfect point for actually growing the team, growing the game, growing the features, and starting to add things that mass amount of players would want. Because if we invested 10, 20, 30 million dollars and released the game 5 years ago, we would have made $5-10 million. I mean, games are just now starting to hit $100 million in sales, like just this year. And even a game like Call of Duty, to get greenlit by a studio, no studio green lights a big IP unless they believe they can make at least $1 billion in revenue, and they target 5 to 10 over the lifespan, because they're investing $300 million on average into these big titles, most of it in marketing. So if titles are just hitting 100 million right now, we haven't had that billion-dollar title yet to even justify from an investment standpoint. Hey, let's take Call of Duty, Halo, World of Warcraft, put it in VR. It's not going to get green lit anytime soon. Maybe next year with PSVR 2 and the continued adoption, they can make pro formas and say, okay, let's start investing now, because in 5 years when the game's ready, there's going to be billion-dollar games. We should be one of them.
Amazing. I got 2 more questions for you before we go into Q&A. One, Web3. I know you're focused on the game right now. What do you think about it? Whether it's decentralized gaming, NFTs, tokenization. What do you think about it? And if you were to implement it, what makes sense to you?
I'm actually sorry to say this for all crypto people. I'm very happy this crash happened. Very, very happy. The reason why is I think there was too much money going to the wrong places. And for someone like myself that has a real game, a real product with years into development, it's extremely frustrating seeing crypto native people raise their hand with the bullshit white paper, raise crazy amounts of money, promise a game and an alpha or a demo. Oh, we'll have a demo in Q2 or Q3 of this year. Like, no, you're not. Like, there's no way you're gonna have anything worthwhile in anything under a year or two. It's just like impossible. Like, real games take 3 to 7 years. Like I was talking to high level people from Halo, like one of the highest level people from Halo. No chance, even with all the money and everything, they're like, every new Halo takes us 3 to 5 years. And when we first started, we were closer to 7 to 10 years. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter who you are and how much money you raise. It's still gonna. Warren Buffett's famous quote: "Even if you have 9 wives, it still takes 9 months to make a baby. You can't have 9 wives and make a baby in 1 month. That just doesn't work." This is Warren Buffett's quote. He basically says you need time. It takes time to make things. Like, you can't just throw crazy capital and expect things to come out quicker. It actually, sometimes capital damages you. So I do believe the hype of the NFT and Web3 thing was good for awareness. The crash is good to cleanse. And I think that anyone with a real product will, there we have a dog in the studio. Anyone with a real product over the next few years, it just starts building, eventually will explode. And how we're going to implement crypto, I'm not sure. I definitely have a lot of ideas on what I believe NFTs are useful for. So NFTs are useful for forms of ownership. Most games, you just license items from the game. I've been banned from World of Warcraft and RuneScape before, where I lost thousands of dollars that I spent into them. So I care about that. I think the coolest thing that I'm excited to explore, and I'll tell you the caveat at the end, is user-generated content, and then being able to monetize user-generated content, and then being able to prevent piracy of user-generated content. So what does that mean? I'll give you the biggest example for virtual reality. VR chat. Not multi-billion, $1.5 billion valuation right now. Did about $100 million raise recently. Large profile VCs, tier 1 VCs. You go on Google, you type in VR chat services,
Mhm.
Fiverr, Shopify, bunch of random websites of users that are creating assets and avatars and levels and worlds and everything for money. And sadly, the quality comes out like shit. There's a few people, because I like to hire people that are just obsessed and, say, hey, pay me $1,000, I'll make this thing that any other outsourcing studio charges you $5,000. So I look for those people and I try to hire them. So some of the people that we've hired, I say, hey, like, what's been your experience creating levels, maps, assets? They go, you know what really sucks? I kill myself for a few months to make a beautiful avatar, highly optimized, blah, blah, blah. I sell it for $100 to someone and they take the file and they send it to everybody else.
Mm.
So piracy of user-generated content, they're not a big company. They can't sue them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's very difficult. NFTs can prevent that because if you sell something in the form of NFT, if they have the file, that's one thing. But if they have the NFT, that's another thing, because the NFT verifies that they can even use the file. You give someone a file with an NFT as like kind of like a key. Yeah, you have a file, but you can't use it. You can't pirate anymore. You can't open your file anymore. So I think NFTs are awesome for anti-piracy. I think they're awesome for rewarding community members. So our NFT project that we did was an in-game pet that had 3 utilities that I thought were really interesting. So one, it's actually an in-game pet that you can socialize with. We're still moving forward on this Valiant concept. 2, it also serves as a battle pass. So now you have a constantly ever evolving list of loyal community members in real time, because they can trade and exchange these NFTs. And whoever owns the NFT at any point, you can click a button, see the list, airdrop them rewards. So you now have like a loyalty program where you can just reward your users. And then the third thing that I wanted to do is we created a level that we call the Veil Citadel. That's a server that's only accessible if you own the NFT. So now you have a community within a community that you can basically enter this level only if you own the NFT, and then you enter the level, you see all your other friends, and you all have pets. So it's basically like a members social club for Valiant pets within the world. So I think building community around it, rewarding your community, and also having interactable objects that are not just profile pictures of monkeys. These are interesting use cases. Moving forward, I'd love to see user-generated content also for royalties and accounting of user-generated content. And for anti-piracy, I think those are 2 things that have not been tackled that an NFT is a perfect use case for. The truth is, markets are down. Investment is going to slow. Most people are probably going to, every 4 years is a big crypto cycle. So I think most people are going to forget about crypto for a few years, just because you can even go on Google and see like how many times people search certain words. It's already like down 80%. Like no one even checks their NFT portfolio anymore. They just kind of said, damn, I'm down 50%. I'm going to forget about it. And now it's down 90% because there's no volume on it and no liquidity. So I think people are going to forget about it. And then 3-4 years from now, on the next turn up, we'll be there. And I'm going to be ready to do things as long as Steam, Oculus, PlayStation, all these centralized stores that make all the rules and have all the users are open to accepting, because right now it's very gray. They've taken a lot of public stances to make the gamers happy that they're anti-crypto, they're anti-NFTs. And I think that until that some really good game does something beautiful with this technology, everyone's going to consider it a scam and not want to actually even talk about it. Most gamers, contrary to popular belief, most gamers actually hate crypto and NFTs. It's like this cult following of NFT equals scam, and they don't even want to know anything about it. It's very weird. Daniel says counter argues through your bear market sentiment. Look, the best traders and the best investors can make money in any type of market. So I'm not saying you're going to do poorly. If anything, you're probably going to make more money.
Yeah, I mean, look, we without shilling my own trading strategy here, but if there's some overbloated metaverses that are worth 100 times as much as they should be worth, do with that information as you want. I mean, you can trade both directions of the market. So I can be a metaverse bull, but I can also be bearish on something like Axie, right? Ultimately, if I can put $1 to you and $1 against them, I think over the long term I'll win. So I think your approach is right. What I like about it is that one, you guys keep it free, free to play, but also the NFT and tokens and all that stuff doesn't get in the way of the gameplay. It's an add-on for those that want it. Because I think that way you can capture both communities. You can make the Web3 guys happy and you can keep the regular gamers happy. And ultimately, I think those two worlds can and probably will to some degree merge when
eventually they, bro, it makes so much sense. They will. 100% they're going to merge. They just don't know it yet. And one of my goals is to combine them, because it's always like people are like, oh, that's the crypto community, that's the gaming community. I'm like, guys, you're the same person, you just don't know it yet.
Marcus asked a good question. He says, is VR synonymous with metaverse for you, or how do you understand the concept? Yeah, to you.
Yeah, it's just you know what's funny? Metaverse doesn't mean anything. It literally, it's a bullshit word. It's the most hype word. It means, you ask 100 people what does metaverse mean, and like everyone comes out with something different. Like, you have no idea how many people, I have a metaverse game, and then they show me something like on an iPhone, and I'm just like, what is it? But they're not wrong. They're not wrong, right? A metaverse, high level, because the actual definition of it, it doesn't mean anything either. It just means a constant, persistent state of online play, whatever. World of Warcraft, Call of Duty, Club Penguin, Neopets, Maple Story, anything that you socialize with people through the internet is a metaverse. Like, that's really all it is. Like, WhatsApp is a metaverse, right? Metaverse is a buzzword that has helped VR grow. To me, a metaverse, I'm biased because I'm VR, but VR metaverse, like, to me, it's like, if it's not VR, it's not new. It's like 20 years old. So why is it a new word now? So me personally, if someone tells me metaverse and it's not VR, I'm extremely confused. But technically, a metaverse is almost everything that uses the internet and you socialize in. But it's been around for 20 years. So why is it a hype word now at the same time that VR is coming up? That's the confusion in the market.
To push back, so to me, metaverse, the definition I usually give is it's the digitally native world, where it's the digitally native world, where the digital world matters just as much, if not more, than the physical world. Meaning, you gamers, they care just as much about their veil character and their veil identity, their gamer tag, and so forth, than their actual physical name, right? So, for example, Tropical versus Jonathan, right? And to me, VR is a medium to express that, right? So VR it's the new medium, and I think it's going to be the next medium. Everybody's been expressing the digital world through desktop and mobile. I think VR is next. And what makes a normal game different, like the final layers, and I even have that in my deck where I say Metaverse 1.0 is social media, games, TV shows. But what makes the 1.0 is that it's centrally owned. 2.0 to me is that it's actually user owned. So, I mean, there's different parts of the equation where it's like, on one hand, the digital world that we start caring so much for, that has so much value. But then it's like, how is it owned? And also, how is it expressed? Meaning, is it a desktop or is it VR? And I think ultimately most will go towards VR. Why? Because it's just so much more immersive. It's so much more high fidelity. And it's just a question of access. And I think that the access problem will go away, right? People in 2008, when the iPhone first came out, people weren't rushing to, make iPhone apps because they were like, only rich people have an iPhone. Right now, everybody has an iPhone. Now you're stupid if you don't make for an iPhone. And so the same thing with VR. It's like, oh, nobody has a headset. Well, I don't think we'll take that long till everybody has a headset, or the headset form factor changes completely.
Yeah, I imagine a future where people are going to have sunglasses and you're going to be able to have augmented reality and also virtual reality with the click of a button. And the same way that if you don't have a smartphone today, you can't even be part of society. Just the other day, I was driving and I went to go park my car in Miami, and I left my iPhone at the house. I couldn't pay for parking. I said to myself, who cares? I'm not going to pay for parking. Let me just run in. I'm going outside. The woman was giving me a ticket, and she's like, and I'm like, please don't give me a ticket. She said, oh, you didn't pay for parking on the app. I'm like, I don't have a phone. She looked at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, I left it at the house. She was very nice and didn't give me the ticket, but she said, you better keep your phone on you for next time. That's the society we live in. If we don't have a smartphone today, you can't even park. The same thing's going to happen with augmented reality and virtual reality. If you don't have these glasses in the future, you're not going to be able to everyone's going to be seeing stuff that you can't see. You're going to be in movies, you're going to be at restaurants, you're going to be at clubs, you're going to be driving, like everything's going to be augmented. And then with the click of a button, it's going to be virtual reality. So don't be a boomer and don't get left behind. Everybody needs that smartphone and everyone's going to need smart glasses.
Because we're short on time, I want to give you one final question, which is about your beta. Beta's coming up July 1st. Anything you want to share about that?
If anybody wants to play the beta, it has a Steam VR compatible headset, which is pretty much every headset except for PSVR 1. Yeah, just I guess email me and I'll give you access. What's the best way?
Sweet. Yeah, I can. After the call, you can share with me whatever it takes for them to get access, and I will send it out in the email so everybody has it in the inbox. Because again, the same thing is like I would love for everybody to just like try out, this is more informational, like learn about how we view the world, but ultimately try the product, right? Like see how you like it, see whether or not you think it's actually better than the stuff that's out there and where it's going.
And not only that, I don't even care about I care about my product, but I'm really at the point where I know my product's so good that all I care about is please try virtual reality at least one time.
Yeah.
Because there's something for everybody. Working out in virtual reality is something that I love to tell people to do because it's just so fascinating. So if anybody wants to do workout in VR workout's a great one for my friend Alex. If you want to do music, Red Pill is sick. If you want to kill people, play Veil. If you want to just learn, there's a bunch of like educational apps. Like there's something for everybody. So at least try it. It's $300. If you're on this call and you can't afford a $300 headset to invest in the future of at least for investment purposes, like you're not really an accredited investor because I saw you have to click accredited investor to be here.
And it's funny because like with Red Pill, I'm like I'm an introverted person. I'm not the biggest dancer, but dude, when I have the headset on, when I'm in Red Pill, like I feel so much less observed.
Bro, I'm not a dancer either. Dude. You and me go to the club and we're both like weird over there, but Red Pill, we're like, woo, because you feel you can be free. It's virtual reality lets you feel free, and it's just something that you have to once the first feeling is when you're in it and you're just by yourself exploring things. Yeah. The second feeling is when you are with a real person feeling each other. I mean, it's crazy. So please try virtual reality. It's really cool. And thank you, Felix, for hosting us today.
Amazing. Thanks so much for being here, Jonathan, and we'll hang out this week. So
I hope to give you good news July 1st on your investment in us.
Yes, that too. You know, we're excited to be back in Jonathan, and I'm really excited for the July 1st release because that's when really it's going out to the world, tournaments, and you know, I think after that the rest will be history, or at least we'll keep pushing. So thanks so much.
You kick me out now? How does it work?
I will kick you out. Yep. Give me 1 second. There you go. See you, man. All righty. I know we're running a little bit late, but if you guys have an extra couple minutes, I will bring Cathy on up next. Let me get Cathy. And, you know, because the goal was really to bring a really full-fledged, well-rounded perspective on things. You know, I didn't want to bring, you know, 3 people that tell you the exact same thing. You've had Toby with a desktop game. You've had Jonathan with VR, and now we've got Cathy, who was one of the first metaverse builders. Her prior company, Landvault, did metaverse as a service where, you know, pretty much big companies would come to her and say, hey, can you build out worlds for me, like on Decentraland Sandbox and so forth. And ultimately, funny enough, you know, Cathy, I remember we were on one of our first calls, and I said, you know, you have such a great insight into the space. Why don't you do it yourself? And so I guess a couple months later, she said, you know what, let me sell Landvault. Let me start Lifeforce. And Lifeforce still isn't stealth, so we don't have a trailer, but maybe you can give us a quick summary of how Lifeforce approaches the metaverse space.
Yes, so we spent a lot of time at Landvault learning, you know, looking under the hood at these other metaverses and seeing that none of them really focus on the user experience. They're very much focused on NFT and crypto speculation, which has worked quite well for them in this market, but now we're in a different market. And ultimately, we want to appeal to the normies, the mass market consumer. And as you said earlier, if you build it, they won't come. There has to be something for them to do. There has to be content. So what we're doing is building a virtual world and metaverse, but very much focused on content. Everything is going to have content on launch. We're going to create our own content. We're not doing casual games or mini games, but we're not doing AAA titles either. There's a very large market for that mid-core game. People spend a ton of time on those games now.
What made you choose that angle? So you're also focusing on mobile, which I know a lot of most metaverse games like the Axes and so forth of the world, everything was browser based, and the reality is the big moment for the internet for gaming was really when mobile came out. How are you able to integrate, I guess some crypto NFTs or let's just redefine it. So you said it's less about the crypto and NFT. What makes it Web3 when you have it, like, let's say a mobile game?
So we'll still have the crypto NFT component, and we will have downloadable clients as well. But what we'll do is, to avoid some of the current issues, is anything in crypto and NFTs, that's going to have to take place in a browser setting. But the actual game will take place either on your desktop or on your phone. But if you want to, say, craft with NFTs, put your NFTs for sale, engage with the crypto, at that point you need to hop in the browser. And as time goes by, Apple, Google, they'll ease the restrictions on the store, I suspect, once they figure out their revenue model from that. And then we'll be able to do everything in one place.
Right. Yeah. Because I guess Jonathan hinted at with, like, Steam, for example, whether it's Steam or Apple and Google, the reality is none of these launchers or stores are currently allowing, I guess, affiliation with crypto and NFT. So I guess that's a good backdoor to be able to have it. But still, in what ways will people utilize, NFTs? Do you believe since you did Land Vault, and I have some opinions on this, you were probably more exposed to virtual land than anybody else. Do you believe that virtual land should be scarce and should be for sale, or should you just leave it open where people can build as much as they want, like UGC wise?
We think that the valuable land should be scarce, and the not valuable land, you can have as much of that as you want. But we feel quite strongly that you can't sell digital land, because the issue with all of these virtual worlds is the critical part of their game is inaccessible to almost the entire planet. No normal human is going to spend thousands of dollars to buy virtual land. So they've immediately capped the number of players. Anyone that wasn't there from day one, they can't engage. So our approach is players are going to have to earn their land. They're going to complete quests. They're going to learn about our game. They'll take our tutorials, and then they'll earn their land. It's essentially a free mint that they can't access until they've spent a little bit of time playing our games and getting hooked, getting engaged.
And so what's your approach to rolling it out? Are you first starting? I first start with the game, or are you doing land sales first? Like, what's your, especially you said valuable land? I guess maybe that's better first question. What makes something a valuable land? It's
just like in the real world, location, and not so much the location as we think of it, but what you're near. Who are your neighbors? Are you near the spawn point? Are you near the hub of the game? So from an advertiser's perspective, that land is more valuable. So you might expect more interesting things to be in that zone. So really, it's not that different than the real world.
Got you. Okay. But with spawn points, I guess teleportation will still be a thing because actually, like, that's an assumption a lot of people make. They think, well, in the metaverse, wouldn't I just be able to teleport everywhere? But I know that for some worlds like Somnium, they actually sell, I think, cars and canoes and like all kinds of vehicles. How do you think about transportation in an open world like that?
And we'll have a similar system where instead of simply teleporting everywhere, you will ride a mount, you'll drive a car, you'll fly, because we actually want people to explore the world, right? We want them to see all the different parts of it. We want them to see the different districts, the different biomes. And if you can teleport everywhere, it kind of defeats the purpose.
Right. And it also, again, like, removes you from that, I was gonna say virtual reality. Well, obviously it's not virtual reality, but still it is a virtual reality. Like, the goal of games, I think a lot of times is really, it's escapism, to make you forget that you're currently playing a game. And while you're looking at it, that's what you see. And I think the more you interrupt that flow, where you're just hitting buttons and then, going, well, every time you open the menu, it actually removes it and makes you realize this is just a game. So, I think games that make you actually, travel through the spaces become a lot more real. So what's the roadmap look like for Lifeforcegames? When are you guys coming out of stealth? When do you think you'll have your first version?
So we'll have our alpha of the tower defense pretty soon, a couple months. We almost have our playable demo now. And then we hope to launch the tower defense early next year and the metaverse at roughly the same time.
And how are you looking to monetize it, since it's more mobile game? There's the the irony is that, like you said, you're not going after AAA, but games like Clash of Clans have become massive, Farmville, massive, right?
Exactly, they're huge.
So how do you integrate, I guess, revenue and making, the monetization of it in an organic way? And does crypto play any role in that?
Yes, so some of it is similar to the free-to-play game model. We will sell some NFTs to players, like asset packs, for example. But most of the revenue for us is actually going to come from our marketplace fees. So we're very heavy into user-generated content. So say a player, for example, in the tower defense, they can essentially do their own level design using our asset packs. They can create their own battlegrounds, and then they'll turn that into a blueprint, which is an NFT, and they can sell it on the marketplace. So now we're not an evil corporate overlord that sold them a high price NFT. Instead, we gave them the opportunity to mint their own free NFT, and then they can sell it. The market price is it, we don't, but we take a cut of that revenue. Got you.
And because I know the studio, it's a studio, Lifeforcegames, and you'll have multiple. Are these in-game items? Are you planning on making it like a transferable economy where, I guess, items from one game can be used in others? Because ultimately, this is a concept that's been very common with NFTs. People always talk about it, but nobody's really implemented it, where I guess items can be used multi-world. And maybe that's a flawed conception in general. I don't know how you think about that.
We are going to have some NFTs that can cross over from game to game. We do have to limit the number and the type, otherwise the game economy just becomes impossible to manage. You essentially become the Federal Reserve printing money. And we will have to limit the lifespan of some of the NFTs as well for the same reason. You would get into this never-ending inflationary cycle. But we definitely do have some pretty good plans on how to move NFTs from game to game.
How do you think about, you said the lifespan of an NFT? Maybe some more clarity on that.
Yes, so you can have something like seasons, for example. So like say you're playing Apex Legends and they have certain skins that are only available during the holidays, right? You can still keep them after that, but they don't offer those NFTs once that season is over. So we can apply that seasons concept to the NFTs. So all of the NFTs won't have a place in a future season. Some of them will, but not all of them. And that will be clear from the get-go.
Right. And are you making these in-game economies? Are you, I guess, are you governing them from a central perspective, or is it community run? Because it's tricky with Web3. A lot of times people say we want to let the community make all the decisions, but unfortunately, I think most people aren't fit to run, an economy, right? Just like, they're probably not necessarily fit to, like, if during COVID, people complain now with inflation, we gave out free money. If it was up to the masses, we probably would have printed even more money, said like everybody gets $10,000, $50,000. So how do you view game economy governance?
Yes, the example I like to use is Harry Potter. That could not have been crowdsourced. That had to have been written by J.K. Rowling. There's a lot of great fan fiction, people have given it their own spin, but there's certain things you cannot create with a massive decentralized group. And a game economy is one of them. So we do want players to have some autonomy in our designs, but most of that is going to come from them doing their own level designs, putting their own spin on the game. But we will be the ones creating the content rather than relying on someone else to come in and build a full-fledged game for us.
Since Lifeforce takes it takes the most of all the presentation, the most like traditional, like Web3 gaming approach. What do you want to do different? Like, what do you want to do differently from, let's say, an Axie? And also, like, is there still a component of play to earn in there? And if not, how are you or like if there is play to earn concept in there, how are you altering it to make it sustainable? Like, is there external flows?
Right. It's not so much play to earn as it is game and own and create and own. We're giving people the opportunity to monetize the content that they make, much like if they make videos on YouTube or TikTok and they can monetize those. They can come into our games, they can create levels, they can create certain cosmetics, and they can put those for sale on the marketplace themselves. So we're giving them a marketplace where basically they can sell their wares.
Right. I guess also providing like the developer kits or like the designer kits where people can then build it out.
Yeah. It'll be, everything again is pre-populated. Everything is already ready to go. But then essentially what we're giving people is like a box of Legos, right? You know, you can build it according to the package instructions, or you can mix 3 or 4 boxes of Legos and make whatever you like. But it should be so simple that my 10-year-old can do it. Although actually 10-year-olds are pretty advanced with games. A 5-year-old should be able to do it.
Right. And especially if then, like you said, because then it's a create to own and also like, well, I guess create to earn, where these, you know, I can totally see myself like if I was in let's say middle school, because back the iPhone wasn't out at that time. You know, kids are playing, like used to play Temple Run. We used to play, you know, Doodle Jump and all these kind of games.
I remember that.
And like if there were, you know, if we were able to create like whole new levels and like, you know, you're not just you're actually not doing it even to earn money. I mean, you're probably doing it to like make a cool level for your friends, maybe impress your friends, you know, and so forth. But the irony is, because it's the digital world, it probably won't just stay with me and my friends. It might, if a lot of people start playing it, it could actually go viral.
And that's exactly the hope. And then our creators become our best marketing. Because if you've created a level and you can earn even pennies off it, you're going to tell everyone. You're going to stream it. You're going to put it on Twitter. You're going to ask your friends to show it to their friends. You're going to make things together with your friends and do it as a group.
Super cool. No, I love it. And I guess that's really the big differential to like Web2, like mobile mini game developers, like again, like the Clash of Clans and so forth. Are there any other big differentials that you would say that make you, I guess, make you less or make you different or stand out from that former category of game developers?
I think the main difference from Web 2 to Web 3 is really being able to own your assets. Like Call of Duty Modern Warfare just came out and announced that they're going to wipe out a lot of the things that people already had. You know, that can't happen with the Web 3 model. And the other main difference is it's not totally extractive. You know, people spend, I'm sure if you tallied up what you've spent with like Sony and Activision and Blizzard over the years, it's impressive, but you've never gotten a dime back from them, and you never will. But with this model, you can get something back for all of the effort you put in.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Is there is there a way for people to like, you know, learn more, join the community, since there isn't a play test yet? I don't know. Will there be, like, I guess you said the tower defense will be towards Q3 a couple minutes ago.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But till then, I think you have a Discord, right?
The Discord's not up yet. It will be up soon.
Absolutely.
Once you start a Discord, you can't stop. So that's got to be ready to go.
And it is, it is quite the resource drain, actually. And I think the only reason we have so many Discords in the crypto space is because people sold NFTs a little bit too soon, and then they had no other choice, but they had to. So, but I guess in that case, you know, we'll keep the community up to date. You know, as you guys start rolling out the first games, you guys have the first trailers and whatnot, we'll share it. You know, ultimately, we really backed you because, you know, you had such a rich history in this space. You've actually done it. You know, there's a lot of people that, you know, they just sold NFTs. They, you know, they're loud on crypto Twitter, but, you know, you have, you know, done millions in revenue building out worlds, like, you know, knowing what Gen 1 looked like and also knowing what was wrong with Gen 1. So, you know, I feel confident that, you know, you guys will build something great. And I really look forward to, you know, getting the first tests.
We're excited.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Cathy. With that, because we're hitting the 1 o'clock, I'm going to make it final notes. If anybody has any questions for me, I'm happy to stick around. I'm happy to stick around for any questions. Daniel says, got to jump. Thank you, Felix, for hosting this awesome webinar. I hope you guys really enjoyed, learned something. You know, I'm really obviously, I think it comes across, really bullish, but also really passionate about this whole metaverse concept, because there's no doubt in my mind that in the next 5 to 10 years, the way we experience the world is going to change dramatically. And all you have to do is go back 10 years into the past. It's 2022 now. And I remember downloading, I didn't download it. I signed up for Facebook in 2008. That's when I moved to America. I moved into America in 2008, and I was a brand new Facebook user in my first few weeks moving here. And the pre-social media world is literally, depending on when you joined, 8 to 14 years ago. And that's not a long time. So on average, let's say 10 years ago, you didn't use social media, right? 10 years ago, I think we were still on the PS2. 10 years ago, VR was actually still inaccessible. It was a weird idea. In fact, in 2018, I did this whole Dawn of Man series on my YouTube where I talked about futuristic technologies. And VR, I talked about, again, 4 years ago, but it still was this ethereal idea. Now, we've backed not just one, but two major VR companies, Red Pill VR, which, by the way, if you're at NFT NYC next week, get in touch with me. I can most likely get you a demo if you're an accredited investor. We will be running an SPV for Red Pill. So even whether you invest with us directly in Hartmann Capital Ventures, you would get a better valuation with Red Pill. We are also doing an SPV where you can invest as little as $10,000 into Red Pill. So that's an opportunity. And again, we will be hosting demos for Red Pill if you want to try it out, because it will just blow your mind like that. It's the actual like Ready Player One kind of quality. And it sounds aggressive when you say it like that because people think that's so far out. But that's the irony. A lot of people think it's so far out. But then when they do the demo, they're like, wow, this already exists. And the reality is because a lot of these guys in VR and gaming, they're just passionate builders, right? Originally, there isn't that much money, right, in building a game. Building a game is very tricky, right? Building in VR, there was like no money in VR, right? And so, for example, the founder of Red Pill, he's been in VR for 30 years. He's been at Red Pill for 6 years. Jonathan has been at Red Pill for 6 years. Jonathan has been at Aexlab for 6 years. So these guys were building for like more than half a decade because they're passionate, because they see the future, because they believe in it. And now we're hitting this turning point in my eyes where the total addressable market is starting to grow and blow up, right? The money is starting to flow in. The content is becoming better. The technology is there, like edge cloud computing, better form factor, and so forth. And so in my eyes, it's this inflection point where if there's ever one time to really, invest in it, allocate to it, get exposure to it, or just learn about it, go get involved in it. In my eyes, it feels very, very similar to those early feelings of like mid 2020 with DeFi. It feels very similar to how Bitcoin kind of just started like finding its spot in like, maybe early 2017 and again in 2020 when it started hitting balance sheets. It's a unique opportunity. So at the very minimum, I hope you guys learned a lot today. That was my goal, right? Get more exposure. As Jonathan said, like, get yourself a VR headset, try it out. And also, take a look at, how Metaverse will be built out, And with that, if you guys have any other questions, here to answer them. Otherwise, as I said before, Hartmann Ventures subsequent close on July 15th. Minimum investment is $100,000. We're initially calling only 55%, which means technically we only need 55,000 at the beginning. You have to be accredited, meaning we do need to get some kind of proof that you are an accredited investor. And then also we have the Red Pill SPV coming up. So if you are an accredited investor, again, for both those, you need to be accredited. And for Red Pill, you can get a demo with me in New York if you're around. Let me read those final questions. Felix, I've got a VR workout demo with Daniel and JP in 2 hours. If you'd like to join, we'll also be at NFT MSC. I'll try it out. I got my Oculus ready. Will there be a possibility to invest in their project soon, like a token or something? So the guys that presented today, they are not publicly raising. We are invested in all of them. So we led the pre-seed round. No, we didn't lead it. We swept it, meaning we took every dollar available for Bornless. So we're the sole investor for Bornless at this point. Aexlab, we participated in the most recent fundraising round as of like February. Sorry, I believe April 1st, actually. And then Lifeforcegames, we backed in February. So Hartmann Metaverse Ventures has exposure to all three, meaning anybody who invests into Hartmann Metaverse Ventures has exposure to everybody you saw today, plus Red Pill, plus a lot of other companies we started backing. My approach with the Metaverse Fund, especially, we are going into tough economic times, is we make we make fewer but more concentrated bets. I'm not looking to have 100 portfolio companies. That's what a lot of gaming VCs out there do. They throw darts, they back 100 projects. I want to back maybe 20, 25, maybe 30 companies over the next 3 years, but have actual deep relationships with them, be involved. Where, for example, those that follow me on Instagram, last week I flew to Los Angeles to spend 3 days with the Red Pill team, right? Where I worked with them on business development. I introduced them to several, music producers, like people that organize festivals and shows. I introduced them to the guys at Decentral Games, where maybe Decentral Games will start building virtual casinos on top of Red Pill. I introduced them to venture capitalists, right? Other people to take the round. And I said, look, I already put money in Red Pill, but I want to raise more for you, and I want to take the lead. So we're actually the lead investor for Red Pill on this current raise. Because, what's ironic about this current economy is that venture capitalists, everybody is, pulling in the tail more or less, and they're saying, I lead investors are no longer leading, right? I try to do the opposite, where I say, like, if there's ever a time to lead rounds, it's now. So make high conviction plays, make fewer plays, but make high conviction plays, put a bit more money down, but then also roll up your sleeves and get involved. Like, find ways to support those portfolio founders, find ways to make valuable introductions to those founders, and so forth. So with that, I guess the final pitch is that if you do know any other really interesting company that is building and operating in this metaverse space, whether that's, gaming, whether that's experiences, whether it's NFT tooling and so forth, we're happy for us to talk to them. The best email would be research@hartmanncapital.com. The first steps will always be JP and Daniel taking a deep dive on it before it gets to me. My job really is to, do final decision making on any investment, and then also once we've made an investment, then I become best pals with the founders and actually, help them with business development and so forth. That's kind of like our structure, where deals flow in, JP, Daniel, the research. They make presentations to me. I like it. I do final DD. I sign the deal. I do an on-site visit. I actually check that everything lines up, and we get involved. But our investment criteria essentially is, anybody below 100 million valuation. So anybody below 100 million valuation, and live product, ideally, I would say 90% of our companies we've backed have a live product that we can actually touch, actually test. Cathy was an exception because, we've known her from a prior company. We knew she was she was an executor. We knew she was, she gets stuff done, and she has the connections. She has the team and the skills. But what I loved about, for example, Bornless, a very young team, is that we can actually test it. We're like, this is great. This is an awesome game that we enjoy playing, and we can talk to the team. They've got guys that are smart with BD. They're guys that are incredible builders, good design, and that's how we kind of get to it. Because there's too many, I think, investors in the gaming space that again say, it sounds good, right? And maybe there's other smart people backing it, but I care less about who else is backing. I'm okay, and I'm willing to be the first person backing, but I care about the product and, of course, the team. Let's see. Amazing work with the webinar and thought leadership. Thanks for everyone. Thanks for the talk. Now back to CTL. What is today? Wednesday. Unfortunately, I got some more work coming up next, but definitely thank you so much, everybody, for joining. I hope you found it valuable. You got our emails. Hit up Emily. Hit up Emily for investing. Invest at Hartmann Capital regarding the Metaverse Fund. Or if it's about a product that you think we should look at, research at Hartmann Capital. So with that, thank you so much for this first webinar, and we'll get it uploaded. With that, have a good one.